He's the guy who's from California, right?
Right.
We are all impressed by people who seem to have a better than average ability to recall facts. But the ability to recall information from memory is something each of us does automatically every day. How do we do it? In order to retrieve information from long-term memory, you need to access it through what is known as retrieval cues.
One of the large mysteries of memory is how we retrieve information that's in the brain. Let's say in 1942, get a notice from the draft board to appear for induction. That's a very interesting piece of information. You're going to be inducted into the Army, and that only happens once. And yet a World War II veteran can remember the day that he received that induction notification. Now along comes a cue. Somebody says, were you ever drafted? Or how did you happen to be in World War II? And this may just pop into mind. Pop into mind. Now, how does the brain do it? Well, we don't know how the brain does it, but we know some things that contribute to it. For example, cues are very important.
Cued recall involves remembering information in response to a retrieval cue. Fill in the blank and matching questions are examples of cued recall tests. Sometimes we are asked to retrieve information without using cues, for example, when you take an essay test. This type of retrieval is termed free recall. The third aspect of memory retrieval is called recognition. A test example for recognition would be a multiple choice test where you recognize the right answer from several choices.
And the act of retrieval is difficult in part because we have so much that's stored in information. And for example, with names, trying to think of somebody's name, it can often fail us because there's a vast number of names we learn over our lifetime. And names overlap in terms of common first names, last names. And so we go into this huge amount of information and memory trying to find a given target name, and that can fail us.
One reason is that we could just fail to pay attention. For example, when Bob introduces himself at the party, we could be paying attention instead to someone who is saying our name at the time instead of to Bob's name. Another reason that we can fail to encode has to do with failure to ascribe meaning to what we're listening to or what we're looking at the time. Memories don't automatically form. We have to ascribe certain kinds of meaning in order for them to happen.
You can attach meaning to what you want to remember in a number of ways. One way people attempt to remember things is through maintenance rehearsal, repeating the information over and over again. A better way to encode information is through elaborative rehearsal, which means you focus on the meaning of the information.
Maintenance rehearsal is repeating Papa Pete's Pizza phone number several times, just long enough so that you can dial the number and then conveniently forget it. But elaborative rehearsal is the more effective kind of rehearsal to use if you want to have access to this information hours or maybe even years from now. Elaborative rehearsal involves using some kind of higher order strategy in order to get that information into a longer term memory store.
Looking at a photo album can act as a retrieval cue. Your current mood can also be responsible for what kind of memories you recall. When you're positive, you are more likely to remember happier times. When you're sad, more likely to remember unhappy days. This is called mood congruence. Strong emotions can also be responsible for what you recall.
Another factor that determines how well an event will be remembered is the significance of the event, how powerful it is. Anything that induces a lot of emotional arousal will lead to a very powerful long-term memory for an episode or for an event.
So we go to the target, and it's quiet. We're doing oxygen checks, and there's no small talk. There's small talk between the crew, but there's nothing with me. I'm just there to fly it. So we get to the initial point, and he says, "I'll take over." He takes the plane. We drop the bombs. In the meantime, all hell is breaking loose. The flak is there. No fighters, just flak, and it's everywhere. It's hitting the plane. And we keep making an oxygen check, but there's no injuries. But it's quite tense, and when they finally say bombs away, it's the most wonderful feeling because you're going home. And if you can now just get back to the coast without an incident, you're going to be fine. But if they shoot at you all the way, and we land, and every man came and shook my hand. And they said, "You can fly with us, Eddie. You can fly with us anytime." And I thought that was pretty interesting. So anyway, I came through it without any problem. But isn't that amazing, this emotion there?
That seems to have just, I think I told you, about the last 5 years, it seems to have hit
These
him.
memories
Told it for many years.
cause these kind of things. Anyway, it was nice to do it and not embarrass myself.
We all remember exactly where we were when we heard certain significant world events and other personal events such as the death of a parent or the day you got married. And the assumption is that because these memories are so distinctive, that memory is likely to be more accurate than others. This type of memory is referred to as flashbulb.
Well, flashbulb memories refer to those episodic memories that are especially salient, often accompanied with emotionality, a very special status. So what you were doing when you heard about the Challenger explosion, someone of my era, what you were doing at the time you heard that John F. Kennedy was killed. And what happens is those seem to be special episodes that you can continue to remember and in some detail over a long period of time. The term flashbulb is that people feel they can, in a sense, like view themselves back in the setting.
When Pearl Harbor was bombed, I was at home. It was a Sunday. It didn't affect me as much as when I saw my father. He was so upset. And I realized, not knowing that my life was really going to change.
Just come home from Sunday school, and I was in the living room listening to the Atwater Kent radio, and the news came over that the Japanese had attacked us at Pearl Harbor, and it was a Sunday morning, and I was quite startled.
Well, that was Sunday morning, and went to church and came home and got the news over the radio.
Flashbulb memories are no different for young adults than they are for older adults. In fact, regardless of what age you are when you encode this kind of highly emotional information, it seems to remain relatively intact even for years and years.
Our target was over Vienna, Austria, and beautiful blue sky day. And how many aircraft there were on the mission, I'm not sure, but it seemed that there were B-24 scattered all over the target and being shot down. We got hit. Our bombardier was hit in the arm. He was injured. And when we flew back off the mission, we made an emergency landing in just south of the front lines in Italy.
We got 2 engine shot right over the target. We dropped 1,000 feet right over the target. We asked for fighter escort, and then we started heading south. We had two engines that were shut down, one damaged and only one good engine. We were able to fly past Zagreb and just past the German troops, and we bailed out.
Because I've heard those men that Harry meets with, when you ask them, you know, what is the most important thing in your life, they will say, surviving World War II.
Though these flashbulb memories can be vividly recalled, they are subject to the same kind of interference that all of our memories are subject to.